In the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Let's run this Pokemon. I'm unsure what happened to the audio, but I just decided I'll do a voiceover. So here we are. Let's do this. I've always wanted to run some Pokemon. Here we are. I never played FireRed. Since I was younger, I never had that device. I had the Game Boy SP Advance. That was about it. I remember we went from the Game Boy Advance to the DS Lite to the DS. I remember when that first came out, the DS. That was fun. My first Pokemon game of all time was Pokemon Diamond. That was a great game. I don't know if you guys ever played that one, but if you know what I'm talking about, goated. Comment below. Comment your first Pokemon game you ever played, why you love it, and how much fun you had playing it. No. I love these Pokemon games because, you actually had to try back then. I remember just how difficult it was to defeat the Elite Four on Pokemon Platinum, Pokemon Diamond. I remember the first time I ever even beat the championship. Queen Cynthia, I remember when I first beat her. It took me many times, many trials and errors. That's why I like these games compared to Pokemon Shield, Sword. Just baby it. With these, you gotta grind. And I think that's, today's era. You can see that even with today's people, how they treat Call of Duty Black Ops 1. That was a great game. I love those games where you had to grind. And this is where we are today. I like how they brought FireRed to the Switch. Never got to play this one. Of course, we had to go with our boy, Charmander. You feel me? But now here we are. My son done leveled up. He done grew up. He's growing so big, so fast. On a side note, let's talk about a topic. Let's talk about some Jesus for a little bit. And lately I want to talk about some Bible verses. I think one that I've been, stumbling upon. Well, there's about two. And if you haven't found Jesus, I encourage you to try and find Jesus. For it is not too late to repent and turn your ways. And I do not want to say the wrong thing. If you're not religious, that's okay. We're not here to judge, for we are not God. However, two Bible verses have been sticking with me lately, and I'm sure some of you can, relate to these. The first one is, worry not for tomorrow's problems, for today has enough trouble of its own. What do I get from that? What do you get from that? Let me know in the comments. I would say what I get from that is, sometimes when I'm just super in my head, or I just think, oh man, life is just getting harder. There's nothing I can do. There's no one I can talk to. Or life is just, weighing you down, beating you up. Maybe you miss somebody or something else like that. Or you're just anxious because you're thinking about the future. I think it's a good grounding for me, Sometimes when I'm just too in my head or something, it's a good thing when I just reflect upon that verse and realize sometimes I'm just thinking too far ahead in the future. And sometimes I just have to slow it down. Rest in peace, my Spiro. But sometimes you just have to slow it down and just realize that we're here for a very short set period of time. And what is the point of wasting any time thinking too much ahead in the future? For we are meant to live in the moments now. And sometimes that is very difficult to do. Is to realize that we only have a certain set amount of time and we're all going to die. And that's okay. But it's good to just realize, oh man, I only have this moment. We only have this moment now. For those of you tuning in, this is the only moment we have. Is right now. You watching my video, watching me beat this FireRed, watching me beat these people, is now. And we just have to appreciate the moments. We have to appreciate the little things, the big things. The fact that we can even, share a moment together like this is incredible. from we may not have been able to do this years ago. For we are born into today's era and this time to even get to play Pokemon FireRed. For we could have been born 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and dealt with some real world problems, And it's unfortunate how things are going on as they are today. But, it just makes you think, what if good and evil weren't a thing? Would it be just a neutral aspect? Would it just be bland? Would it be boring? What is the alternate, what is the alternate of what's going on in this life? What would life be like if we didn't exist in today's timeline, Then you start putting science into the mix, and you're like, oh, well, this kind of makes sense. But this makes sense, too. It's kind of confusing, but I know some of you will catch my float. The second verse is talking about, it says, better to be alone in the desert than to be with a quarreling woman. You tell me what you get from that below. I'm going to tell you what I get from that below. As you know, lately I've honestly been dealing with, some hard times in my relationship. And sometimes things come up and I'm just like, oof, A relationship is never perfect, but sometimes you've been thinking, oh man, that verse is kind of hitting home. I don't know if you've ever been with a nagging woman, and I'm sure this goes in reverse, for a woman with a man. I'm sure a nagging man is never as fun either. However, we're talking about the Bible verse that I just wrote right now, or not the one that I just read right now, not wrote. The one that wrote it. Somebody else, not me. But when I think about that verse, I just think very heavily, and I have dealt with many women who were just awful on the end of the spectrum and just super annoying, super clingy, super on you, super like, just, oh, where you at today? What are you doing? Just constantly, complaining, and, us as men, we do have to realize that choosing a partner is one of the biggest decisions we can ever make in our lives. For we don't lose just time, we lose money, we lose peace, we lose, all these things. And if we don't choose the right one later on in the future, if we choose the wrong shorty, the wrong wife, the wrong girl, well, it can have detrimental consequences that will be everlasting and lifelong effects. Let's say you have children with this woman, and she's a nagger, or you have children with this woman, everything that you have in the relationship is going to convert probably that of 10 times when you become married to this woman. You just have to be careful who you trust, who you pick. Take your time with the woman. Don't rush in just because X, Y, Z. Lately, I've been realizing sometimes peace comes at that cost too when you get in a relationship. Well, your life really isn't yours anymore, unless you have a great woman who is mature and understanding. But you do realize that you don't go from just making your own decisions to, not caring about your partner and telling them X, Y, Z too, because that's also vitally important. There's a whole mix in this, and I love conversation. Please call me your opinions and stuff down below, as I'm not trying to say the wrong thing. But also, I like to attend to my opinion as well. And oh yeah, get a Pokemon. Sorry, I kind of got distracted on that. However, let's digress back to the point. It's a very, very big decision, choosing a woman. And for those who are younger, may you be a man, a woman, a girl, a guy, a girl, a boy, whatever, you name it. If you're watching this, just realize that when you decide and you go for the partner, well, it's a very big decision in your life. Better to be alone in the desert than with a quarreling woman, as that translates to not just the underlying problem, but translates and transmutes to big things, the big picture overall. For if you can tolerate the little disrespect that she gives you or he gives you now, imagine what it's going to be like 10 years from now. These are very vitally important things. Very important things. And it's funny, I'm going to talk about Pokemon now, but it's funny how with Magikarp, I traded him. I traded a bad trade. I'm sure you guys saw, but I was just like, yeah, why not? I know it's going to take him forever to level up, and I got my monkey in the mix. He's going to level him up in the meantime. But yeah, I just wanted to have some fun. I love the animation in these compared to, like, just the new games. I'm just not really a fan of the new games. I think my favorite one, of course, was probably Pokemon Black. I love the animation in that. I love how they look a little bit futuristic. I love how they kind of move. I don't know. I just think the Pikachu in Pokemon Diamond Platinum look the best. The Pikachus nowadays just looking like a doll, just plastic wrapped in, coating of another tier of plastic, and it's just not what I'm into. I like these games where, they're animated and they have some character to them. I mean, just look at that wheel. Look at that monkey, To me, that's cool. It's cool stuff. And I love it. And I'm definitely going to talk about some more stuff. Instead of going to therapy, maybe this shall be my therapy. Your therapy, too. All jokes aside. It's quite cool. I remember back then, when I was playing Pokemon, I would just simply learn the biggest and best attacks, Instead of losing, or using, the moves like Leer to lower the defense and the stats that are vitally important. It's funny looking back now. I remember when I was younger, I was probably maybe 8 when the DS come out. I'm not really too sure, don't quote me on that. But whatever time that DS came out, I had a white one, and it was Pokemon Diamond that we got. And oh man, I remember I had an older brother, and he was playing for me, for I didn't really understand the game yet, nor did I understand the concept, where to go, what to do. I remember I had chose Piplup as my primary starter, and I was just going on through the game. And one day, my brother was playing it, and he decided to play it for me. Well, when I had came back, I didn't realize that my Piplup had evolved, nor did I realize that Pokemon even evolved for that matter. And it was a Piplup to a Prinplup, and I was like, what is this? Where's my Pokemon? And then I realized, oh, he evolved. On a side note, I ain't gonna count Misty messing me up right now. We gonna have to beat it. This is what I get for starting with the starter of a Firemon, not really taking the time to equip my others. So we gonna be on this gym for a little bit, but once we pass this gym, it's pretty much just gonna be steamrolling because my Pokemon room is so leveled up. Like, look at this boy, 100% ready to swim. So we got Swim Louise in the trap with a Horsey. But I got my mana bat. And yeah, he getting destroyed. Level 16, level 7? What? Make this make sense. Yeah, we gonna switch him out though. For we can't not be doing that. Let the monkey have his turn. Let the monkey have his turn, baby. But yes, thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoy it. Go ahead and definitely let me know of any topics or anything you guys want to talk about, discuss. If you ever need to even just vent or talk, you can always include my email address where you can find me there. Find me on the socials as well. I'm here for anybody and everybody. I think another important thing to, reflecting back on Jesus is just looking at, maybe if one doesn't believe in him and believe in the ways of how he came about, or believe in God for that matter, even if you just apply his principles to the daily life, you will become a better person if that's what you intend to do and to be. For being a better person is never the wrong answer or wrong thing to do. For it takes great humility, respect, and kindness, character, charisma, compassion, and many things to be a great person. For that is what I've always made a goal for me in the past, was to become the best person that I could ever become in my lifetime. And as I struggle with it every single day, I just reflect and I always think about what Jesus would do as I'm crashing out in the the car rides going from my job to work, my job to Walmart, home to Walmart, home to gym, in those instances of anger, what's it called? Road rage? There we go. Sorry, I'm blanking out for a bit. But, just for examples of like road rage, of crashing out, you just gotta think, oh, what would Jesus do in those moments? Instead of crashing out, he'd probably just forgive. He would just let it go. He'd be compassionate. He'd be kind towards those people. He'd be like, oh, maybe they're in a rush. Maybe they're trying to get to their last visit with their daughter or son or grandparent or parent. You never know what's really going on in people's lives. For it is more than just being nice. It is spreading love. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Love your enemies. And that can be a very hard thing to do. Why? Because pride and ego is amidst and amongst that. And pride and ego are one heck of a drug. They're very crucial. Very bad for you. And if you don't, take note of that pride and ego, well, it can easily overrun you and easily run your life. For sometimes we don't need to drop the pride and ego. And just like that, he says for you to set aside your pride and ego. And though I'm not sponsored by this, by all means, please go watch The Chosen if you have not. For it does an amazing job in depicting the character of Jesus and the rest of his disciples. For we must be better on this world. There's too many PDF files going on. There's too much bad things going on, for we must share some love. For I am with you, and so is the Lord with you. If you guys need anything, you just let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, for I still have about a minute left in it. However, I'm going to wrap this up and just let some silence and reflection come into display. I thank you guys so much. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoy. Have a blessed day. May God be with you. In Jesus' my name. Amen.